Welcome to the Peace Ranch Peace Bite for February 27 of 2022. I'm Nola Hennessy. I'm with Serenidad Consulting. I'm the founder of Serenidad Consulting and the Peace Ranch. And I'm very pleased to be bringing you this first Peace Bite through the Anchor podcasting system. Many of you are aware that on YouTube we have already placed a number of our Peace Bite sessions, and I started those at the beginning of our global pandemic 2 years ago. And it's interesting when we reflect on what's happening with Ukraine and Russia's assault on Ukraine, that we as a humanity have such a long way to go in understanding what creates in the mindset of certain people the need for power and control. When I write in my books about the biggest issue that humanity is facing being the ego of the human being and the desire for intense levels of power and control over others, I really write about the fundamental aspect of human nature that many people will never come to understand in their life. As we are physical beings, we are also spiritual beings, and the way that our personality comes out through our physical presence on earth is very much founded in the spiritual maturity that we bring into life. When we're born with a physical body but a spiritual level of maturity, and one would hope that over life and through lessons learned and applying those lessons and gaining wisdom, that we develop to a better level of spiritual maturity. But honestly, some people aren't going to get there. So that's when you see people who are sitting in positions of power choosing to use their personal power in destructive, toxic ways. I've posted on social media my response to what we all knew was going to come. We all knew that the power plays that exist for countries around the world are not going to be resolved through current mechanisms. We do not have enough power within the United Nations structure to be able to arrest behaviors of individuals. And what I'm going to be proposing to you is your level of empowerment. And I've written about this for decades. My books are out there for you to read, and you are empowered individually to make choices to change. With this particular podcast, I'm introducing what I see as our new model for peace. There will be more about this in time to come. It will result in other documentation that I produce. But this is what I believe we need to have underpinning all of our negotiations to resolve conflict, our political dialogue, our policies and our legislative frameworks that underpin how countries work within and with each other. So interdependent, codependent, and independent. A new model for peace brings forward some fundamental principles and behaviors that every human being has the capacity to embrace. Peace is not just for the ones who want to sing songs and talk about love and holding hands and never having an argument. Peace is more than that. I don't ever want you to believe that peace cannot be achieved within yourself and within your families, within your communities, within your country, and with your relationships with other countries. And if everybody embraces that same resolution that peace is achievable, then that is exactly what we will achieve. As I say in No Boxing Allowed, when we all want peace, that is what we can achieve. Our personal power allows us to achieve that. Our politicians, our lawmakers can all put the frameworks in place. Our policymakers can write policy. But if we as individuals don't make a commitment, then everything that is documented will have no foundation of intent. It will not live out the expectation of the wider humanity. And we won't see the collective dreams of billions of people realized. The vast majority of humans on the face of this earth want peace. We don't want to be fighting. We don't want to be having conflict. We don't want bombs being dropped. We don't want people dying. We don't want families displaced. We need to realize, as a result of Russia's totally obnoxious behavior and their selfishness that is only aimed at what they can get out of this, there is nothing but a selfish agenda in what they have done. If we don't learn from this point in time, then we're never going to learn the lessons. I've written about peaceful relationships. I've devoted my organizations to that. I've put money behind where my mouth is to make sure that people understand just how important positive, meaningful relationships are, and the importance of calm, peaceful dialogue. Not angry rhetoric, not fighting, not pushing and shoving, not chest thumping. That doesn't achieve anything. All of those behaviors are based on ego. So if you do nothing more beyond this slide than to put your ego aside, you will have stepped towards peaceful relationships. Now, this new model for peace is really based on the acronym P.E.A.C.E. And I'm going to put it here to you, and over time, each of these foundations for peace, I will talk about them in different contexts. I will talk about them with guests who choose to come on our podcast. But there is a commitment that I have made, and whilst I have breath and I can share my passion for making positive change, then I will do that through this mechanism. So in simplistic terms, the P in peace means positive outcomes for people and the planet. We can't divorce the two. We are reliant on Mother Earth, and Mother Earth will only sustain us while we don't do damage. When we're empowered to make positive outcomes and we empower each other, we empower ourselves, we throw away the ego motivation, we throw away the desire for greed and power and control over others, and we empower ourselves from within. That is ultimately the very highest form of empowerment that you can achieve. People can hold a position of power, but if they don't feel empowered at a personal, spiritual level, they will never affect the changes through that position that they should. The A in peace stands for alliances. We must achieve alliances, whether it is an alliance between yourself and your partner, between yourself and your children or grandchildren, within your communities, within your organizations where you work, within the broader community that is part of a bigger city, within the country in which you reside, the country that you go to and you form relationships with people. Call them alliances and you will see an immediate positive shift. If you call them simply relationships, then they can either be negative or positive relationships. But alliances are all about allies and helping one another. They're founded in positive, they're founded in unselfish behavior, and they're founded in the next part of peace, which is compassion. We must show compassion for each other, no matter what. Many times I've had people ask me, and most recently publicly, I've been asked about what is the one thing that our Australian Governor General can do in that position that hasn't been displayed before. And I've talked about the need for compassion. When we have people in positions of authority who don't show compassion, then what happens is that policies and legislation is built around that discompassionate attitude. And compassion is the thing that takes us and puts us apart from what I'll loosely call evil. If you are compassionate, you don't have to dive in and be part of the problem solving, the challenge mitigation. You can simply show concern, and it's different to empathy. Empathy is not about sympathy. Compassion and empathy are very closely aligned, but empathy is the thing that will mark you apart from your peers. Empathy means that you are in there with that person, you're involved, you're listening, you're understanding, but you're not necessarily taking on their emotions. You're not taking that on as your own issue to solve. You're allowing them to know that you understand how they feel, and you are concerned for how they feel. Compassion is caring about people, really openly doing something that is supporting somebody. And when you think about this acronym, P.E.A.C.E, peace, the two things that underpin peace are compassion and empathy. Anytime you don't see compassion and empathy in a relationship, no matter what the context of that relationship, then you're missing two of the vital components for a peaceful, positive relationship. Earlier this month was the 10th birthday celebration for my grand beagalier called George. In January 2016, I was at that time spending an awful lot of time over in the United States, doing a lot of business development, but a great deal of that time was also engaging with folks and networking. And I was driving between two cities in Texas in the January, and I came across this particular dog jumper, this sweater thing, and I thought, my gosh, that's perfect for George. He could be the one to walk around and show the message of peace. And I had never seen anything before it or since. And when George had this thing put on him, when I got back from my trip in that January, and George had this little outfit put on him, he looked up, and it was as if to say, well, not used to wearing this kind of thing, but yeah, I'll hang in there with you, Grandma. I'll wear this for you because I know this is important. And the simplicity of this, the message I want to get across here is, whilst George passed away just before his 10th birthday only recently, and it was very unexpected, if George can wear and show peace and be a peaceful being, then other people can learn from his example. He didn't claw to get that jacket off. He looked up as if to say, I understand. His eyes tell it all. I know that this is important to you. I want to be able to support you. And he stood there full of energy, wagging his tail, showing that he was part of this peace message. I learned a lot from my Grand Beagalier. Not the least was that he was not canine in the real sense. He was a spiritual being beyond any that I had ever met before. And he embodied everything that is peace. His demeanor, his patience, ultimate patience, his perpetual positive attitude, despite enormous, what we now came to realize was enormous health challenges. He was perpetually positive, always looking for the good things, always looking for the fun, always looking to nurture relationships. So I ask you in this first P.E.A.C.E bite delivered through the anchor system, I'm asking you to reflect on the acronym and the meanings of each of the letters in the word peace, and start to build change at your local level. See what you can do. Start to improve the dialogue, empower yourself, think positively, show compassion and empathy for others, form alliances that are good, that deliver positive, and we will be a lot better off. I trust that my friends who are from the Ukraine will see this message. I know that a number of our consultants work with Ukrainian specialists, and I'm very disturbed by what I see happening. I'm disappointed for the lack of compassion showed by Russia, but it's not surprising. They've lost their way, but we need to find our way back onto the right track, folks. We have to do this. We are getting loud messages that humanity is getting off track, and we need to get back on track. I urge you to reconsider everything that you are doing in every context and bring about positive change. Thank you very much for listening, and please feel free to go to our website for further information. I'll be with you again at our next session.